Good morning. Just waiting for people to hop on. Good morning, good morning. Just gonna give it a couple more minutes. There's a couple people who are coming in as we speak, so. Good morning, everybody. Let's see, I think we're waiting on maybe one or two more. So I'm just gonna give it just a second. We'll probably start about 7:01 and we'll get going. Hope everyone's having a good week. Can't believe it's Wednesday already. I feel like we just started and we're already midway through. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get going if no one else is hopping on. Hello to day 3 of this retreat. This is one of my most favorite days. We're gonna be talking all about nutrition for postpartum, how that plays into your breastfeeding and into your mental health. So this is something that I'm very passionate about and something that I've been learning about and offering my mamas here on Hawaii for quite some time now. And I am excited to share that with you. I'm gonna go ahead, let's see, and share my screen. I'm getting a lot better at this now. Let's see. All right. Awesome. Okay. This dilly dally over here. All right. Oh, maybe it doesn't want to go. There we go. All right. So as most of you know, when we're pregnant, there's a lot of talk about what you can eat, what you can't eat. There's a lot of focus on nutrition, mostly restrictive, which that is like one of those taboo things that needs to be talked about more and more inclusive of what foods are good for you to eat. But I've seen this huge gap with a lot of things in postpartum, but one of the things is definitely nutrition. I think a lot of mamas, including myself, I've experienced this just going into survival mode, like just literally eating anything that people bring you or that your partner can pick up from fast food, anything that you don't have to cook. Yes, it's just a yes. But I have found such a richness in being intentional about the foods that we consume postpartum. And I've studied under naturopaths and midwives and nutritionists and Chinese medical practitioners, and they all agree how important postpartum nutrition is. And that's something that has been lost in our culture a little bit, or a lot of it, to be honest. So many cultures have these beautiful practices of laying in for 20, 30, 40 days and consuming these amazingly healing and rich and wholesome foods for your postpartum recovery. I love in Chinese medicine, it's the matriarch's job to nourish the younger women who are giving birth. So she'll be the one in the kitchen bringing food, using all these Chinese herbs to help them heal. And that's something that I've included in my practice as a postpartum doula, making foods for my mamas, but it's something that is so easy to do, easier to do than most people think. And with a little bit of knowledge and preparation, all postpartum moms can have access to wholesome food. So that's why I am so passionate about sharing this information. And I've actually just revamped the whole nutrition part of our course. And so you are getting the first little sneak peek of it. I already have the Ayurvedic recipes included in our online course. And Ayurveda is something that we can chat about a little bit more as we go along, because I think you'll see how it will apply. So a lot of people don't know that there's these different phases of healing postpartum, and understanding those is so important for understanding what your body needs in those periods, understanding what you might be experiencing and how to support yourself in that. And then also understanding maybe some support you might be needing to reach out for. So we're going to go through those because it's really enlightening. So I love to surf. And so I think using surfing analogies is helpful. Any analogy really is helpful. So even if you don't surf, I think these will resonate with you. So phase 1 is day 1 to 7. I call that the paddle out. I'm going to go into more depth of what this means, but paddling is a lot of work. So I'm pretty sure you can gather what those days entail. Phase 2 is the whitewash. Again, you can probably gather what that means. And then there's phase 3, the ride, and then phase 4, the rhythm. So these include day 1 all the way until day 40 and beyond. Really, that 4th stage applies to even after those 40 days. So phase 1, I call the paddle out. So this is when you are new postpartum. You likely feel pretty worn out and like you've gone through a lot, because you have, no matter what type of birth you've had, you've gone through a lot. You were pregnant, now you're not, now baby's earthside. You've experienced a number of things that you've never experienced before, possibly. Even if this is your 2nd, 3rd, 4th baby, every time it's completely different. I've confirmed this with all my mama friends who have more than 3 or 4 babies. It's unique each and every time. So in this time, focus obviously should be resting, hydrating, and nourishing your body. You should by no means be up and about doing much of anything besides laying, feeding baby, and then making sure that you are getting what you need for your nourishment and your hydration. A lot of times after we've given birth, our digestion is all wacky, which makes sense. Our organs have just been pushed all over the place, and now they have all this space and they kind of have to find their way back to their homes. So this is when we'll experience a lot of cramping. Your uterus is already cramping because it's shrinking back to its size. And sometimes there's constipation. There's a lot going on within us that can be uncomfortable during this period of time. So in this first week, I always focus on detoxing, which might sound like, whoa, that's a little hardcore, but you're going to be detoxing because you're going to be flushing out a lot of fluids, a lot of blood, and you're going to be balancing out your hormones. So you're having to flush out hormones that were meant for pregnancy and now start creating healthy levels of hormones in your body to regulate you for breastfeeding and recovery. And stress management, that's a big one that mamas need a lot of support for. So that's what all the foods in this first week are centered around. Going into phase 2, so this is usually your 2nd week. You're starting to adapt more to this new shift in your family, this new life that's present, in your relationship with your partner. Things are starting to kind of make a little more sense, possibly. But this is also when emotions can be really high, because this is when a lot of times our hormones just will plummet. All the oxytocin is zapped out of your body. A lot of times we're experiencing high levels of stress. and our adrenals are usually tapped out. Not always, but a lot of times we're experiencing a lot of this. So that's why I call it the whitewash. So it's like this, there's a lot going on, but you're still in this slow pace of trying to heal and recover and adapt. So for nutrition during this time, I always want to make sure that mamas are getting supported for all the energy that you're outputting, because when you're breastfeeding, especially in the beginning, your body doesn't care or know that you're breastfeeding only one baby. So your body's going to be working either really hard to create milk for one baby, or in a lot of cases, our bodies create enough milk to feed villages. So it takes a while for our bodies to regulate. But in the meantime, we're still using all of that energy up and taking all of those nutritional sources out of our body to do this work. So making sure that we're supporting that is really important. And that's a lot of times why moms experience a lot higher appetites in the second week. And then focusing on balancing out hormones, especially taking notice of how to support your body for stress, high levels of stress. I think most people know that stress is like one of the worst things for your body, but as moms, it's inevitable. We're going to be experiencing stress even just forever, I think. So knowing how to balance ourselves with, mental practices that we talked about on Monday, healthy practices like exercising when you're cleared for it, but nutrition is non-negotiable to make sure that you're healthy and balanced. In this phase 3, this is your third week, usually third to in the middle of your fourth week. And this is what I call the ride. You're starting to get more into a groove, but usually at this phase, baby goes through a huge growth spurt. So you're likely feeling like all you do in life anymore is feed your baby, whether you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding. Likely your focus is around feeding your child all the time. And then sometimes babies are more fussy in this phase. A lot of times babies go through a sleep regression at this phase. So even though you're getting into a rhythm, you're kind of accustomed to lack of sleep at this point. You might be feeling like your world is pretty small, because likely you're going from nursery to living room to bathroom to kitchen over and over and over. Most moms still try to stay home at this time, but sometimes you'll be more inclined to want to get out at this point. I encourage you, if you can, I know all life's circumstances are different, but just wait as much as you can. We include a lot of resources for how to have services, even grocery deliveries come to your door. If you're here in Hawaii, talk to me. That way, even if your partner has to go back to work early or you just don't have that family support, that we can create that for you. Even if it's not hired services and if your budget doesn't allow that, there's still a lot of amazing resources that can support you. Because ideally, being home and still resting at this phase is really important. But if you do feel like you need to get out, I always encourage just walking around your yard, going for a short walk if your doctor okayed you to do that, or even just a drive around your neighborhood. Sometimes just getting out for a second is so good. But for nutrition, the focus is going to be creating a little bit more diversity in your diet at this point. Not only does it create at least a little bit of excitement in your life at this point, but we're going to start trying to get your digestion used to more variety, because there's not a lot of variety in the beginning of this nutrition plan. But it's also going to start helping your body understand how it's going to be again, that we have a lot of different things that we eat normally. And also we're going to be boosting your iron and helping your adrenals balance out. So most women are iron deficient. That's totally a common thing for women. And that's before we go into birth. And then obviously at birth, we normally lose quite a bit of blood. So building up that iron takes time because, sorry, there's big trucks going by. Because even though we need iron and we're desperate for iron, our bodies have a really hard time as women absorbing iron. So a lot of times the hospital will even give iron supplements. Those are rarely absorbed by our body. And then they cause a lot of negative things like constipation. So getting iron from food sources is one of the best things you can do to balance out your body. Because that's how our body is designed to absorb its vitamins and minerals, is through food. And then phase 4 is what I call the rhythm. So this is going all the way to day 40 and honestly beyond. So even though in this stage you might be still feeling a little groggy, tired, possibly a little bit sore, most likely you're ready to get out and about with baby. You're ready to go and see friends, to go to the grocery store potentially. I still encourage you to take it slow. Getting out and about is going to feel great, but it's also going to be a little taxing in the beginning and take you a little while to work up to that. So making sure always as mothers that we're thinking about our basic life supports, because we forget those, especially when we're out and about. So making sure that you have a water bottle with you. Yes, pack all the things for baby, but making sure you have what you need, like water is huge. Making sure you have good snacks, which I include a lot of really healthy, wholesome, nutrient-rich, calorie-high, I know that's a scary phrase, snacks, for while you're breastfeeding, while you're recovering still, because yes, you're still recovering, and while you're still balancing out your whole entire body. So making sure that you're having these things and that you're consistently eating as you're breastfeeding is so important. So a lot of the foods that I include in this portion of the recovery are high in fats. They're high, oh my gosh, mopeds. I live by a road, can you tell? Yeah, so foods that are high in fats, high in fiber, rich in vitamin D. That's why in a lot of the foods I include mushrooms. If you're not a mushroom fan, don't worry, I have great ways to hide them. But they're really important for boosting and sustaining your energy. So we're going to go through just basic foods that are for each purpose. So we talked about, detoxifying and all these different food sources that we need. But what actual ingredients and food sources have those? So for detoxification, things like kale and ginger, lemon, lentils, sweet potatoes are like the holy grail. For postpartum moms, for moms, and just honestly for a healthy diet in general, they're one of those foods that's like a really complete food source. And I know potatoes normally are like, no, they're starches, but sweet potatoes are kind of like, they kind of break the rules as far as potatoes go. And then apples, nuts are huge, beans, carrots, cilantro. I include a lot of cilantro in the recipes that I cook for my mamas, because it has amazing powers to help you absorb vitamins and minerals more and to detoxify your body. So that's like a win-win. And then turmeric, obviously. Turmeric's great. It's so high in magnesium, and that's a huge vitamin that we need when we are recovering. And then obviously, turmeric is one of those powerhouses that helps to not only detoxify, but also reduce inflammation and keep you healthy as well. Foods that are for boosting your iron, dates. In a lot of the recipes that I'll be including in this new food plan has a lot of dates used in ways you wouldn't suspect, like in soups and desserts. And honestly, if you love dates, I definitely love dates. You just eating them and making sure you take out the really hard seed is so great. A lot of people know that dates are recommended usually in your last couple of weeks of pregnancy. And a lot of people don't know why, but it's because they're really high in iron. So it's boosting up your iron stores before you give birth. So using recipes with dates or just eating dates that have been dried are an amazing source of iron. A lot of people are worried because they have a high source of sugar, but we'll probably talk about that here in a little bit. There's a difference in like refined cane sugar, obviously, and then like fruit sugar, which has a lot of really important enzymes for your gut. Anyways, kale is huge, lentils, pistachio, romaine lettuce, surprisingly, has a really high source of iron. It's also a lot of water, so that's kind of like good for moms because we need to hydrate and we need iron. So romaine lettuce is great. Mustard greens, black beans, again, edamame, and Brussels sprouts. So any soy, be careful. And I do mention it because they do have high sources of iron, but sometimes babies, when you're breastfeeding, can be really sensitive to soy. So just, you can always try little bits of it and see how it goes. Also with breastfeeding, sometimes cruciferous vegetables are a little hard on baby at first. Introducing it more when you're, 3 to 4 weeks postpartum is recommended. But sometimes babies have no problem at all with the foods that you're eating. So that's something just to navigate as you're going with breastfeeding. So foods that boost vitamin D. Vitamin D, again, as women, we're usually deficient, but we need it to make sure that mentally that we're balanced. It has a lot to do with our feel-good hormones in our body, as well as reducing inflammation, helping us heal. Vitamin D is a really important vitamin. I know we hear about it a lot, but understanding what it does for us is huge. It helps us to fight stress. So vitamin D is non-negotiable. In our course, Dr. Lindsay Hollister has a whole module about how to be healthy your first year postpartum. And she talks a lot about supplements for you to take. So even though I'm going over like all the foundation of nutrition, sometimes supplementation is necessary, and that's oftentimes true for vitamin D when we're postpartum. So make sure you check out that module in the course because she goes through all of that in detail. And that is something that I think a naturopathic doctor should recommend because she's the expert. So, but foods that boost vitamin D, obviously sunshine's not a food, but sunshine is at the top of the list because it's important. When you're postpartum, a lot of times you're inside, but even just taking some time to get outside, put a chair outside where there's gentle sun, it's good for you and baby. Or in the evenings as the sun's going down, that's a great time to absorb vitamin D anytime after 4 p.m. That's when the sun is emitting a lot of those good sun rays. So get outside. Nature is so important for healing postpartum. Oatmeal, mushrooms. Like I said, I have like a mushroom broth. Lots of mushrooms I include in the recipes. If you don't like mushrooms, you're gonna have to get over it. No, it's okay. Some people really hate mushrooms, and that's totally okay. Normally, when I put them in recipes for my mamas who do not like mushrooms, I'm really good at hiding them because I'll put them more in like thicker curry-based type of meals where I cut them really small, and it becomes more of a texture than anything else, and not like a slimy big texture. And then the broth, obviously, you're not going to be chewing on mushrooms at all. It's just the broth. And we extracted all of those awesome healing nutrients that the mushrooms has to offer. So, and then yogurt, tofu, again, being careful with the soy. Orange juice is really great. And then soy milk, again, being careful with the soy. Honestly, a lot of nut milks too have a lot of vitamin D in them. So I encourage plant-based eating postpartum, but any plant milk has a good source of vitamin D, not just soy milk. And then foods that are rich in fiber. So in the beginning, we were talking about in phase 1, balancing out our guts because they're going through a lot. And a lot of times, moving your bowels is scary in the beginning because our body has just gone through a lot down there. So having foods that help to move things along smoothly is really, really important. And that continues all the way on in our whole entire life. Foods that are high in fiber are extremely important for your gut health. I think I saw some of you did download the free resource I have for gut health. And that is something I encourage everybody to check out because gut health as women, as human beings, is so important and great for when you're teaching your kids how to eat healthy too. They're going to see what you're eating. So high fiber foods is really important. So those include beans, spinach, avocados, flax seeds, raspberries, peas, quinoa, chia seeds, and lentils. Chia seeds are one of those other powerhouses. I think a lot of people know about chia seeds at this point. But they are great for detoxifying. So I have a lot of recipes for chia seed puddings in the beginning, preferably warm, which is different. A lot of times people consume chia seeds puddings cold, but they can be great warm or cold. But yes, they detoxify and they're so rich in fiber. So it's great. They are very absorbent too. So when they go into your body, they're wrapping up all those toxins and then they're high in fiber so your body can flush it out. So chia seeds, they're everywhere in the beginning when I cook for mamas and for what will be in this new postpartum diet thing. And then of course, calcium. Calcium is really huge just for supporting us as women. We need calcium. We need it for our bones. We need it for our brains. And then a lot of times we become depleted with calcium while we're breastfeeding. So making sure that we're having sources of this in our diet is important. So things like white beans, spinach again, greens, deep, dark greens should be in your diet always. I always encourage my mamas to try to have it in each of your meals, which might sound strange to have it in your breakfast meal. But it's so important. You need them for your mental health. It helps to reduce anxiety. And then it helps to balance out everything. I think you've seen a deep dark green in each of these food sources so far. So important. Figs are really great. They're so high in calcium. And then carrots, almonds, again, sweet potato, that powerhouse, snap peas, broccoli, and tomato. Broccoli, again, is one of those ones you're going to need to be careful for when you're breastfeeding and just see how baby does. So small amounts if you feel like you want to do broccoli and just be careful. Some people love broccoli. I'm one of them. So just navigating that carefully is important. So like I said, in the course, there are some Ayurvedic recipes in there that you can try. I will be launching my new postpartum nutrition plan next week. So that there's a lot of work going into that. And I will be putting it in some of the things in the online course, just all the things that I went over here for you to better understand what your body's going to be needing. But stay tuned for the postpartum recipe guide, the nutrition guide, because I've had a lot of people asking for that. So please make sure if you have any questions as far as that goes, to let me know. Let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. There you go, I'll share. Hold tight. This is where I don't know how to do it. Like, how do I get out of here? Might have to screen share for the rest of this time because I don't know how to get out of here. One of you is probably laughing at me because you probably know how to do this better than me, but I guess we'll just have to keep going. Let me just see if I can get out of here because I don't want to keep sharing anymore. Ah, hello, stop share. I can do this. Okay, whew, that was harder than it should have been. But I'm gonna be going now into talking about maternal mental health. Let me just get myself sorted here. So in our course, I don't know how far each of you has gotten, but we have a whole section on learning how to care for your postpartum mind. And all of that has been written by myself and then Shannon Kaufman. She's a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in maternal mental health. She is a wealth of knowledge, and that section is really meaty. There's a lot of videos in there that would be great for you to go through. Just pop in earbuds and listen to her. But I am going to go through some of the things that are important that I think mothers need to know. And let's see. And most of that, honestly, is understanding warning signs. So in Shannon's videos, she calls them predictive factors. And these are things to keep a lookout for when you're pregnant, even before you get pregnant. So these are things like you have already experienced some levels of depression or anxiety on a reoccurring basis. There's obviously life situations where we'll experience these things. But if you've had a history of them, understanding that that is something that may trickle into your postpartum experience is really important. When I'm going through this section, obviously I'm not a therapist or a counselor. I am getting my master's in mental health counseling right now, but I can't give you like specific advice on that, but I can tell you as a friend and as somebody who has experienced postpartum anxiety and depression on a severe level, and then experienced a lot of clients going through this and helping them navigate it, some things to be on the lookout for. And that is a big one. And if that is you, do not feel scared or worried or crushed that this is something that you might experience, because it is common. And even though it's common, it doesn't mean that it's something that you just have to suck up and deal with. Knowing beforehand that you might experience that is great, because you can set up your support for when that time does come if you do feel those symptoms coming. That is something that I did not do. And I'll share my story just a little bit because I think it'll resonate with you and hopefully give you some hope if you are somebody who does have a history of this. But with my daughter, my husband was in the military at the time. He's a Hawaii boy. He was born and raised here, but he was in the military for when I was 5 months pregnant. He came back for the birth, which I was so thankful to God for. But then he left when my daughter was a week old. So then I was alone again. And like we talked about the different phases of healing, when you get to that second week, that's when emotions are normally their highest. So I didn't know at the time because I was alone and probably in delirium, to be honest, because I was exhausted. I did not know that I was going through postpartum depression and anxiety. And now being on the other side of it, I saw how my situation honestly was dangerous. I'm really thankful that I didn't get to a point where um, I was wanting to harm myself or my baby. But those things do happen as moms. We do experience things that we never thought we would think, that we would feel. And as I was going through these emotions of being so sad and mad at myself that I was sad because my baby was healthy. I mean, how blessed was I to have a healthy baby? Um, I was so sad. I was anxious about everything. And I, bottom line, needed help. And I didn't reach out for it. The whole time, I did not reach out for it. Um, and then later down the road, not only did I experience a lot of health issues because I didn't replenish my body right, I was in survival mode and eating whatever. But also just the taxing on my body from the amazing amounts of stress that I was experiencing just ravaged my body. And that is what honestly inspired me, this source of pain and this source of, quite frankly, trauma inspired me to want to learn how to support other women. So I began this journey of learning all I could to help women not go through what I went through. I wanted to like help women avoid that at all costs. And so almost a decade later, this is where I have gotten. And so mental health for women is something that I'm so, so passionate about. So if that is you, if you have a history of this, connecting with a counselor or a therapist before you give birth is crucial. If you are already postpartum, no worries. Connecting with one now is key. I do have access to Shannon Kaufman, and if you want to connect with her, she's really great with coaching. And then if you need deeper therapy or counseling, she can help you find some great resources in your area. And then I also do know some counselors here on the island, if you're on Oahu, who specialize in maternal mental health, and they are therapists. So I think a lot of people think like, oh, I need therapy, or we joke about it as moms, but honestly, we do. We do need therapy. We're going through a lot. This is a huge life shift. With any other life shifts, a lot of times people will get therapy if they've gone through experiencing loss or trauma. People get therapy, but we can also get therapy if we've gone through amazing things like bringing a human into this world. And even if you are doing great, if you feel great mentally, if your energy feels great, then that's so awesome. But still taking time to just process what you've gone through with a certified practitioner, a certified therapist is so important. So if you need a resource for that, please, I know some of you have been texting me. If you don't have my number, it's in all of the emails. So look, text me or message me here. Hey, I need your number, or I'll just probably share my number in here now. So if you need a resource for here on Oahu, let me know. I will connect you. But go through that module with Shannon Kaufman, go through all the meat and bones of that, because that's so important. And then I do have 2 more practices. They're similar to the ones that we went over on Monday, like in that reflective mind space to help you stay balanced postpartum. And those are included in the section with Shannon Kaufman as well. I believe hers is, let me look, I think she's she's step 5. So I have the course broken into 7 steps. She's step 5. So it's possible that you're not there yet, and that's totally okay, but at least you'll know what's coming and hopefully be excited about it. But in that section, I wanted to go over the practices so you know how to do them. The one that I love so much is your not to do list. I don't know if you're like me, but as women, a lot of times we're juggling a lot, especially once we have kids. Even before, if you're an entrepreneur or you're working or you're not, you're just managing your home, there's a lot that goes into that. And lists are important. Normally, they're lists of all the things we have to remember, all the things we have to do. We're conquerors. So lists usually make us feel so good. Like, yes, I did all these things. I love lists. But for postpartum, we have created a not to do list because a lot of times we're going through all these things postpartum, all these experiences, all these hormone shifts, all these emotions. Physically, our body's going through a lot and experiencing a lot. And then this new life, this new being is experiencing a lot, needing a lot. And then like our dynamic between us and baby, us and our partner, so much when you think about it. On top of that, we do not need to be tacking on this huge to-do list of things. But sometimes it's just inevitable. Sometimes there's no one around to pop in all the dirty spit up clothes into the washer. And so we will have to step up and do that. But if we can kind of prepare beforehand, if you can take some time to look at and think about, okay, these are the things that are going to need to be done. What things do I think I could most likely manage? And what things do I absolutely, under no circumstances, want to be doing postpartum? And those are important to pinpoint because those are the areas that you're going to be like, okay, so how will they still be done? So seeking out help, lining out meal trains, or your best friend to come and do your dirty laundry who you don't mind seeing and smelling your dirty laundry. You got to have those friends in your corner, or just communities. There's a lot of amazing mom communities on Facebook. If you've moved or you're not by family, those resources are out there. If you need help finding them, again, let me know. I love connecting people with their people. So that's really huge. Going through the not to do list is important, and share that with your partner. Be like, look, these are the things that I see that I know will need to get done, because that's also going to help them. A lot of times, which we'll talk more about, bringing partners in and helping prepare them for postpartum on Friday. But a lot of times partners want to help, but they're kind of clueless a lot of times. They have no idea what we want them to do. And then we get frustrated because we're like, you should see me and know what I want and know what I need, but they don't. So having a list for them, be like, look, this is like all the things that I'm going to need and that we're going to need. Where can we have help? What things do you feel comfortable doing and stepping up and being okay with me expecting you to do those things? So it really is one of those things, again, that opens up really important conversations with your partner. If you have older kids, getting them involved on that, like, look, mommy's going to need help with these things. Are you going to help me? I know when I had my son, my daughter was just about to turn 4, but she loved being involved and helping. So even if I was like, babe, can you grab brother's diaper? Mommy needs to change diaper. She was on it. She loved it. Obviously not like making them do all the things. They're just little nuggets, but that was surprisingly helpful, just having an extra pair of hands and then really praising her for that. She felt included and important because she was. And then another one is called The One Thing. I'm going to pull it up just so I can look at it, because the one thing, is so beautiful. And it's in the downloads. In a lot of the sections, there's downloads on the right-hand side. Hopefully you've been able to see those. But we call the one thing because you're going to be pinpointing the one thing that scares you most. This can be kind of heavy because we don't like to talk about those things a lot. We kind of just want to keep them, like, we don't want to even put mind power into that or think about that. And I get that. I'm in that space of wanting to make sure that I'm positive, I'm putting my thoughts into positive places. Um, but I do think there's a lot of power of addressing elephants in the room, or in this case, I call it the dragon in the room that you need to slay. But it's good to think about what problems or hurdles or frustrations or challenges that you are currently facing, and being open and honest with yourself about those things. So one of the prompts is exactly that, like write down what are your problems, your worries, and your frustrations that you're feeling right now, and just writing them down. This is good to do each week postpartum, honestly. Each week in your life, this could be a great thing to include in your journaling. I do that in my journal now. I call it a happy and a crappy, like what's my happy thing and what's my crappy thing. It's good to be balanced and acknowledge these things. But for the one thing, you're going to write that down. And then the next prompt is writing down what your possible solutions are. Obviously, not all life situations are going to be fixed with just one solution. A lot of times our life is organic and things just are what they are in certain seasons, but thinking about solutions is really good. It's amazing how we can just write down, okay, these are my challenges. Think about that. And then, okay, what could I maybe do to make these better or solve them? And then the next prompt is, what is that one thing that can make a difference for all of your problems and worries? So this is where that mental shift for thinking about your problems are. A lot of time that one thing is how we think about these challenges and problems, how we see them. Or it's simple things like, courage to ask for help, or courage to talk to your partner about the fact that you need them to do more, or for you to create space for your partner and forgiveness for them, and allowing them to do things the way they do them, even though they're different than how we might do them. It could be a wide variety of things, but pinpointing what that thing is that can make all the difference in the world for these challenges that you're experiencing is really important. And then we also have a prompt for, how do we make sure that this one thing stays true to us, and what we can do to ensure that continues on in our day-to-day. So that's like that action step. So we've, addressed the hard things. We've thought about what we could possibly do. Then we talked about the mental shift, and then how we make that stick. So it's a lot of layers, again, like I've said before, for that onion that we're peeling back and getting to the nitty gritty. The one thing is a good one. It can be a challenging one. So again, with the other practices, don't rush through it. Don't just, whatever, I did it. This can be one that you have to sit with for a little while. Even if it takes you a couple of days to work through each one, that's okay. And I think that's actually better, to be honest, than just rushing through it. Sit with those things and contemplate them as you're preparing for baby, or after you've had baby. It's really important to do those things. So that was a lot today with nutrition, and then lightly touching on maternal mental health. All of you know that there is a lot deeper information, which you will get in the step 5 of the course for maternal mental health, but I at least wanted to touch on it because it is something that is near and dear to me. And then, as always, if you experience extreme levels of postpartum anxiety or depression, always reach out to a professional. That can't go without being mentioned. Tomorrow is going to be Hillary Valentine again. Make sure you're ready to move tomorrow. She's going to be talking about motherhood ergonomics, which blew my mind. So she's going to be talking about how to move as a mom. because whether we're cleared for activities or not, a lot of times we're moving as moms. We're picking up baby, we're picking up diaper bags, we're picking up car seats way before we're ready. So she's going to show you posturing for those, because we can do all the work we want to rehabilitate our core and our pelvic floor. But if we're not moving right throughout the day, we're going to unravel all that hard work we did. So she's going to go through all that with you, as well as pressure systems in your body and how to breathe. So make sure you have your stretchy pants on tomorrow, yoga pants or whatever makes you feel good, because we're going to move. And then later today at 2 p.m. is our coffee hour. It's going to be right here, same link. I can, text it to you if you need it. If you're going to be more on your phone, I don't know if you're on a phone or a laptop, but 2 p.m. Hawaii time. I think that's 6 p.m. Central time, or 7 p.m. Central time. And it's going to be open forum. So bring questions, be ready to share your thoughts on how things are going. Like I said, I am looking for feedback, open and honest feedback. So I'm excited for that later. Hillary will be on with us as well. So if you have questions for her, make sure you bring those. And then, so I'll see you later today at 2, and then again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Thank you guys so much for coming.